Hi, this is Scott with Etrailer. Today we're taking a look at and installing a Blue Ox base plate on our 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. One of the things I really like about this base plate setup on our Cherokee is how it really hides in our trim of our front end here. It doesn't have a whole lot sticking out, and it really tucks in and hides back in. Another thing that I really like about this one is how it allows you to set up where your wiring and everything is going to go. Well, so it has two different little pins that come out of the front, and that allows you to hook up a lot of your different accessories that you're going to have for your flat toe setup. And with that, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of having to figure out where to put these, because when we're setting these up on these newer vehicles, it's really hard to find a good solid mounting place to put these accessories on the front. Now we'll get our tow bar put in place. Just want to slide that in. Now we are using a 6-inch rise high-low adapter. Now we got our tow bar in place. We'll get our pin put through and our clip. Now we can insert our arms, give them a quarter turn, and those will click into place. Lift up and get our arms moved where they need to be. Get those brought over, get them through. And pin those in place. Now we can get our cables hooked up. These will be our safety cables. Now we have all of our components all hooked up, and we're ready to put our Jeep in flat toe mode and hit the road. A lot of people ask what components they're going to need to get set up to flat toe, and those 5 components are going to be a base plate. You're going to need a tow bar. You're going to need safety cables, some type of braking system, and you're also going to need tow bar wiring. Another thing we recommend is getting set up with a charge line setup like we have here today. And what this is going to do for us is give us charge from our RV to our vehicle battery, which will keep us charged while we're going down the road. Another thing you may need to take a look at is you may need a high-low adapter like we have here today. That's going to help get everything evened out and keep you right where you want to be with your measurements. Another thing with that as well is you keep in mind you are extending it a little bit, so you may want to take a look at some safety cable extensions as well to make sure you have enough cable to accommodate when you're turning and going down the road. Now, if you have any questions or comments about this base plate for your Jeep Cherokee, you can always leave a question or comment down below in the comment section, or you can get a hold of one of our experts here at Etrailer. They'd be glad to help you out. Now, as far as installation goes, you will be removing the front fascia, and there are some things you'll have to trim. But other than that, it's something you can definitely get done yourself. But if you don't have the time or the place to do it, you can always take a look at our dealer locator and get something done for you locally. If it's something you feel like tackling yourself, stick around, watch our video, and we'll help you get it installed. To start our installation, we're going to need to get this panel right here underneath of our hood out of the way. So we're going to have these little plastic pop clips all along here. We're just need to get all those out to get this removed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a screwdriver, and each one of these you're going to have a little spot. You can kind of turn that. Now you can see you have a little indentation where you can get a screwdriver in there. Just lift up, pop those out, set those aside. Lift our panel out and set it aside. Underneath that panel, we're going to have 6 T40 screws that go in through the front of our grill. Then we're going to have 2 10mm bolts. We're just going to go ahead and get all those removed. Now, behind each one of our fender wells, we're going to have 5 8mm screws that go in. We're going to have 3 up here and then 2 that are tucked in back in here. Now, something you can do is you can turn your wheel either way. However, it makes it a little bit easier for you to get at these. But I have an angled driver, so I'm just going to go ahead and get those out with those. Once we have all those out, we're gonna have our inner fender well trim. We just wanna get our fingers in there and pull that back. It's gonna give us room to get up in there. That we can take this and just tuck this back, try and get it back behind our tire a little bit. That'll hold it back out of our way. Now after we get that out of the way, right up in here where it goes between our front fascia and our fender, we're gonna have a 10mm bolt that runs up through there. So I'm just gonna take my angled attachment and a 10mm socket and get that backed out. It can be a little tricky to get at just because of the angle, but just take your time and you will get it out of there. Now we're gonna have this trim that runs right around our tire and wheel. What we need to do is we need to get this pulled back just up to about here. That way we can access where we need to pull our front fascia off. So I'm just gonna put a little pressure on this and just start to get this popped loose and get my fingers behind it. And behind here, we're gonna have our clips. And what you can do with those is you can squeeze the tips in together, and that's gonna help get them started. And just feel along, working your way up. And we'll just get that pop back out of the way. There we go. Now once we have that all popped back, we're just gonna take a rolled up rag and just stuff that in behind that. And what that's gonna do is help us hold this back away from our fascia and give us a little bit of room to work. On each side, we're gonna have a couple wire harnesses we need to get popped loose right behind where our fender well is. And in this case, I'm gonna have this bigger connector and it's gonna have this white tab. Just wanna pull back on that white tab, push in on the white tab, and pull out, and that'll disconnect that. Now on this side, we're gonna have this other one. And what we're gonna need to do is pop this red clip back. You're gonna have this black tab, push down on that, pull that apart, and the other side is the similar setup. Now we're underneath of our Jeep, and we're gonna have 6 10mm bolts right up underneath the front. Let's go ahead and get those removed. With those out, we can pop down our trim. Underneath of there, we're gonna have these 2 pop clips, one on each side. I wanna pop those out and set those aside. We're gonna go ahead and start getting our fascia removed. And once to get this moving in here, there's like a little tab. There'll be a little tab right in here. And just push down on that, and you can see, once you push down on that, it starts to pop out. After we've got that done, we're just gonna start working our way across over towards the headlight. Just applying a little pressure out. Once we get up to this point, I'm gonna lift up and over. Our bump stops. Now once we get to that, we want to go slow at this point, make sure we don't have any electrical connections hooked up. Now on our passenger side, we are going to have our washer fluid line. Just want to squeeze on these tabs, pull that out. Now I'll just come back through with a pair of vice grips and plug that off. On each side, we're going to have our horn, and we're going to need to get that removed. So about the same way we do our other connections, we're just going to have a red clip, pop that down. You're going to have a tab. Push in on that tab and then unplug that. Now up here, we're gonna have a 10mm bolt. With that out, now we can set our horn aside, and we will do that on both sides. Now that we have our horns out of the way, we're gonna take a 16mm socket, and we're just gonna get our hooks removed. those removed, we can kind of push back on our hook. You're going to have a nut back here. Just want to back that off. Now after I had that pushed back and the tension off of it, I was able to take that off all the way by hand. After we've done that, now we can pull out our hook, and I like to just get a couple threads on the nut, keep those together. Now we'll do that on both sides. Where our hook went through, we have this large nut, and we need to get this out of the way, give us some more room. Just gonna use a pair of channel locks, get that broke loose. And what we want to do is just get the nut off of this. And once we've done that, we'll just push our tube back into the frame and out of the way. What we want to do now is get our bumper beam out of the way, and we're going to have two 16mm bolts and a little 10mm bolt on each side. On my other side, I already have all my hardware out, so I want to keep my bumper beam held in place while I'm doing this, so I'm going to remove my last bolt. With my last bolt out of the way, we'll just remove our bumper beam and set it aside. We will not be reinstalling this. Now we're going to need to remove this tab that sticks out around this right here. You can see where I have that marked out. So what I want to do is I'm going to have this wire. We're going to get that removed out of the way and get that tucked up. So take our clip tool and get that set up out of the way. Now I'm just going to take my cutoff wheel and I'm just going to run down this and just get that trimmed out of the way. After I'm done doing that, we're going to trim out this area as well of this piece of plastic and make room for our base plate to come across here. Now for the plastic in here, we're just going to go ahead and get this cut and make room for a base plate. In the directions they have me leaving a little bit here on the bottom, but I'm just going to make a straight line out of it and just get that out of the way. There's not really any point of keeping this small tab on there. I'm just going to use my reciprocating multi-tool and just go ahead and get this cut out. On the front of our Jeep here, you're going to have this bolt that comes through that we had that little 10mm nut on. We want to get that out of the way, so I'm just going to use some of my channel locks and just wiggle that back and forth. Just keep doing that. Now we can just pop that bolt through and out of the way. What we need to do now is get a hole put in right here. We're going to use an 1¼ inch hole drill to get this opened up, because we need to be able to get hardware in here. And what we did is we measured 4 inches down from the edge of this plastic down and centered it up. So all I'm going to do is take an 1¼ inch hole saw, and we'll go right on our mark and we'll get a hole drilled out. Now we'll get our base plate lifted into place, and we're going to use our existing bolts that we pulled out. And with these, we already have red Loctite on them. And from this point on, we're going to be using red Loctite on all of our hardware that we install. Just want to get both of those in and down as far as you can, finger tight. Now we'll come back through and we'll torque down our bolts here on the front to the specifications listed in our instruction manual. Now, if you don't have a torque wrench, you can pick one up here at Etrailer, or you can take a look at your local auto parts store. You should be able to rent one there. After we have our bolts in the front all torqued down, we're going to have these 4 on the sides of our base plate. We're going to use these as a template, and we're going to have to drill these out to 1/2 inch holes all the way through on these 4. Now we're going to do that on both sides. So what we're going to need to do is get a pilot hole. So I did get a pilot hole into this one already. So now I'm going to come back through with my 1/2-inch drill bit and get these holes widened out. Now this is going to take quite a while to get all these done. So just be patient and just keep pushing forward and you will get them all done. After we have all of our holes drilled, the next thing we want to do is we have our handle nuts that come in the kit, and we're going to have our hardware, and we're going to take our bolts in the kit, and we want to make sure we have our red Loctite on there, and we're going to take our lock nut and get it in place. Now the hole we drilled in the front here, we want to make sure we're going to the lower front hole first. That's the one we want to work with. So to get this in place, we're going to have to take our handle nut and get it bent the way we want it. And it may take us a couple times to get this figured out just how we want this to get bent. We're going to take a light and we're going to look in through our hole, and we're going to line the nut up with the hole, and then we're going to run our hardware in. Now this is going to be hard for you to see, but that's the way we have to do this, and you got to just have a little patience with this. It can be a little bit tricky to get these lined up. So if you have a flashlight or something, just line it up with the hole, and you may have to take this back out and just bend this wire however you need it, in the angle you need to get it down through the hole, and then in the angle you need to line it up with the hole. Once you get it lined up, you just want to get your nut ran onto your handle nut. And again, this may take a few times for you to get that. But once you get it, you just want to run it down finger tight. Now that we have our lower bolt in place, we're going to have this plate that comes in the kit, and you can see that we're slotted on the bottom. So what we want to do is take our plate and we're going to run it down behind our base plate. And we're going to line that slot up with our bolt. I'll make sure we're on that, and we are. When we do that, we're going to come back through with another handle nut from the top, and then we're going to go in and we're going to thread it into this hole and get it finger tight. Now we'll come back through and we'll get our hardware in the back holes here, and just want to make sure that you have your plate in place, and we do on both of these, so we're good to go. Okay. After we have all of our hardware in place, we'll come back through and snug everything down. Now I recommend using hand tools like a ratchet to do this. You don't want to use a power tool and end up breaking off your handle nut on the inside. So you just want to get them good and snug. And I'll kind of go around, alternate as I'm tightening them down as everything starts drawing down into place. After everything's snugged down, we'll come back through with our torque wrench and torque everything down to the specifications listed in our instruction manual. Wires we have sticking out of the front from our handle nuts, there's a couple different ways you can get rid of these. You can use a pair of snips or something and just get these cut off. Now if you're using something like these, you may need to bite on there and kind of twist to get them to pop off. Or you can just wiggle them around, and sometimes you can get the weld to break loose, but I'm just going to come through with my snips and get these cut off and out of the way. Now we got our tube back in place, push through our frame, and what we need to do is get it back installed. So we'll just take the nut, and I like to put a little spray lubricant on there. It makes it a little bit easier to run it down by hand. We'll just get that put down. We'll run that all the way down by hand, then we'll snug it up after we get it all the way buttoned up to the frame. Now we'll just take our channel locks that we used to remove it. Just get that snug down tight. Now we'll take our hook, run it back through. Now we're going to line it up with this slot right here on our base plate. What we need to do now is we'll take our hardware that comes in our kit. We're going to take a lock washer, and then we're going to take a flat washer. We're going to run that through. Now we'll take one of our nylock nuts and get that put on the other side. And we're just going to leave that loose for now. Now for our other hardware, we're going to have a hole in the bottom of our base plate, as you can see right here. Now our other hardware is going to have to go through, and we're going to have these smaller handle nuts that come in our kit. We're going to want to get this bent where we can get it up in through the hole here in the bottom for our access hole, and line it up with the hole that goes through here to the side of the hook, where our hardware with our same combination of lock washer and flat washer, and we'll run that through and get our handle nut in place. After we get it started into our handle nut, I'm just going to go ahead and snug this one down. Now I'll come back through and snug down my top one. Now after we have these torqued down, don't forget to get your nut on the back of your hook and just snug down. After everything's tightened down, we'll come back through and we'll just cut off that wire. Now we got our cable installed. This kind of went up around our frame here and then down on the inside, where I hooked up one end of our cable and then I ran our link through, and then I brought my other cable over and brought it to the link. Now all I'm going to do is get that tightened down, and we'll get that done on both sides. In the back side of our fascia, we have this foam. This is going to need to come out. It's just going to have these little metal clips. And we won't be putting this back in place, so whatever it takes to get those out. Now I'm going to come back through and just trim off these ends so they don't contact my base plate. We'll lift our fascia up in place, and we're just going to get an idea of where we need to trim. We can see where our base plate is back in there, and we're going to need to cut a good portion of this square out. And I'm just going to take my reciprocating tool and get that cut as close as I can. Now we have it all trimmed out. I'll come back through with a utility knife and just kind of clean up the edges a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and we'll get our fascia put back in place in reverse order that we took it off. And that was a look at our Blue Ox base plate on our 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. I'm Scott with Etrailer, and thanks for watching.